Hello, this is the 2.3 lesson, least common multiple, part A. So we're going to learn how to find the least common multiple using the list method today. So your objective here is that students will find the least common multiple of two numbers. We have two vocab words. The first is least common multiple. So that is the least number other than 0. That is a multiple of all the numbers. So essentially, it's exactly what it sounds like. Now, multiple, we'll learn what that is here in a second, but you're going to find a bunch of multiples of numbers and then find the least one they have in common. So least common multiple. Well, a multiple is exactly what it sounds like. Multiply. It's the product of a number and any non-zero whole number. So for instance, the number 3, I could start listing the multiples of 3. So 3 times 1 is 3. That's a multiple. 3 times 2 is 6. That's a multiple of 3. 3 times 3 is 9. That's a multiple of 3. And you get the pattern. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. Those are all multiples of the number 3. And you could go on forever with those multiples. So here's how we're going to find the LCM using a list. First, we're going to list the multiples of each of the numbers given to us, okay, and then we will find the least or the smallest value or multiple that occurs in all the lists. So we'll identify, okay, do they have any in common, and then which one is the smallest. So for instance, 3 and 5. So I am going to start by listing all of the multiples of 3 and all of the multiples of 5. So the first multiple I will always list is the multiple itself, 3 times 1, which is 3. And then I will move on to 3 times 2, which is 6. 3 times 4. Sorry, I skipped 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 6 is 18. And you know what? I'm just going to put little indexes up here to let me know this was 3 times 1, 3 times 2, 3 times 3. 4, 3 times 5, and 3 times 6. And typically I say go out to about 5 or 6 multiples of that number. You might need to extend your list if you can't find anything they have in common. But if you start with 5 or 6, typically that will get you the multiple you're looking for. So then the multiples of 5. Well, 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 5 is 25. And 5 times 6 is 30. So again, and I could go ... because the multiples continue. But I'm just going to stop there at 6. Okay, and I'm going to actually look at the list for the number 5, all of those multiples. I always start with the bigger number, looking at those multiples. Because you'll find your answer a lot sooner. And I'll show you why here in a second. So I started the first multiple 5. Well, I don't see a 5 in the other list at all. So I'm going to cross off the 5. Yeah, I don't see it. And then I'll move on to 10. Okay, I don't see a 10 in this other list at all. So I'm going to cross off the 10. And then I move on to 15. Well, I actually do see a 15 in the other list. So 15 is common to both of them, which means I circle them, and my LCM then is 15. Okay, so 15 is a multiple of 3, and it's a multiple of 5. It happens to be the least of both. Now, just imagine for a second that I continued my list for the number 3. So I went on to 21, 24, 27, 30, ... Okay, well, notice now they both have 30 as a multiple as well. However, our least common multiple is still 15 because 15 is the smaller number out of the two. Now, I'm going to point out why I decided to work with the list for 5 instead of the list for 3. So if I would have decided to work with the list for 3, I would have started with 3 and saw, nope, that's not a multiple in that other list at all. And then 6, nope, that's not a multiple. 9 is not a multiple. 12 is not a multiple. And then I would have gotten to 15 to see that they match. Now look, I had to go through 5 different numbers before I found the one that's in common, versus here I only had to do 3 before I found the one that's in common. So it'll take you a little bit less time to find the least common multiple if you start searching the list of the bigger number. So for that, in this case, it was 5. Just a tip. I mean, you can do this list and start searching this list, but it's a little quicker if you do it the other way. Okay, now we're going to find the LCM between 6 and 9. So again, I'm going to start by making lists for both 6 and for 9. So 6 times 1 is 6, times 2 is 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, and that's 6 multiples right there, so I might stop there. And I can continue if needed, but I'll just stop there. Okay, then 9. 9 times 1 is 9, times 2, times 3, times 4, times 5, and I'll go one more, times 6. Sorry, 50. Okay. All right, then I start looking at my list for 9. Since 9 is bigger than 6, I'm going to start with the list for 9. So is 9, this first one, do you see that in this list at all? No. How about 18? Do you see 18 in this list at all? Yep, I sure do. So that really did not take us long at all to find that the LCM, the least common multiple between 6 and 9, is 18. Okay. I also see, again, I see 36 in both of these lists, but 18 is the smaller of the two, least. Okay, 18. All right, how about 8, 12, and 16? Well, now I have 3 numbers, and I need to find the least common multiple between all 3 of these, which means I'm going to start listing multiples of each. So 8 times 1, 8 times 2, 8 times 3, 8 times 4, 8 times 5, 8 times 6. I'll stop there. Oof. Okay, now 12. 12 times 1, 12 times 2, 12 times 3, 12 times 4, 12 times 5, 12 times 6. Stop there. 16 times 1, times 2, times 3, times 4, times 5, times 6. And again, I could keep going, but I will stop. Okay, I'm going to start with the biggest number of these again to work off of that list. So for 16. Okay, start with first multiple of 16. Well, I see 16 in the list for 8 right here. Okay, but I do not find 16 in the list for 12 at all. Now it has to be common to all 3 of them. So I cannot use 16 as my least common multiple. So I'll move on to 32. Now I see 32 in this list, but again, I do not see 32 in my list for 12. So it has to be common to all 3. I cannot use it. I move on to 48. See a 48 here, and there's a 48 here, and here. So 48 is the first one that was common to all 3 of them. So my LCM is in fact 48. And again, just a hint, if you kept going and you couldn't find it, you might need to extend your list a little bit and do a couple more multiples before you can find your LCM. Okay, and finally, our last word problem. Jerry and his dad are walking around the track. Jerry completes 1 lap every 8 minutes. His dad completes 1 lap every 6 minutes. They start together. In how many minutes will they be together at the starting line? Okay, so in order to find how many minutes it will take them, we're going to be finding the least common multiple between 8 and 6. So Jerry's dad's walking a little bit faster than he is. So his dad is going to start lapping him at some point, and they won't stay together the whole time they're walking. So we want to know at what point will they come around the track and meet up at the starting line again. So we need to find the LCM between 6 and 8. So let's list multiples of 6. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. And we'll stop there. I could keep going. I'll stop. Okay, multiples of 8. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, and again, I'll stop there. Could keep going. So I'm going to search my list for 8. Is 8 a multiple of 6? No. Is 16 a multiple of 6? Nope, I don't find it in my list. Is 24 a multiple of 6? Yes, I see it both here and here. So 24 is a multiple of both 6 and 8. In fact, it is the least common multiple between the two. So your LCM is 24. So essentially, after 24 minutes, Jerry and his dad will have met back up at the starting line together. We could extend this question and say, okay, well, it would have taken Jerry, he takes 8 minutes to complete a lap. So after 3 laps, he will be back at the starting line after 24 minutes. And his dad takes 6 minutes. So that means he completed 4 laps after those 24 minutes. So after 24 minutes, Jerry will have completed 3, his dad will have completed 4, and they both will end back up at the starting line together. So your homework is the 2.3 worksheet A, and you're finding the least common multiple using a list. And I will say some of those numbers can get a little bit big. So you're finding multiples maybe of the number 60, and you might have to extend your list past 6 multiples. You might have to go 10 multiples or 12 multiples just to make sure that you can find something that they have in common. So just a heads up about that. Thank you.